This week we looked at past tense verbs in English. Verb families have two past tense verbs. One is called the simple past and the second is called the past participle. So here we can see 6 verb families: to be verb family, to have verb family, and to do verb family, and to go, to give, and to play. We can see the children of these verbs here, and we can see that the to be family has 2 simple past tense verbs. One we use for the singular and one we use for plural. But we can see with the other verb families, they only have one simple past verb. But each of these verbs has another past verb called the past participle. We use the past participle in different types of past tense sentences. So let's look at number 1. I gave my homework to the teacher yesterday. So here is our verb, gave. It's in the simple past here. And we can see the time, yesterday. This time is important when we're choosing our past tense verbs. This time is finished and it goes very well with the simple past. Let's look at number 2. I have just given my homework to the teacher. So we've used the past participle given with the verb have. This forms the present perfect verb. So this is telling us that this verb is finished, but our time here just tells us very recently. This verb finished very recently. So you can use the present perfect to tell about a verb that finished very recently. This is our first activity. You can pause the video and see if you can put the to be verbs in all the gaps. So I want something healthy. So I eat regular meals and go for a walk every day. You need to now choose which of these to be verbs belongs in this gap here. So we can see we already have a verb here, want. So think, which to be verb can we put after another verb? Okay, our second one, I something not busy today. I'm free. Here we've got an adjective, not busy, and we're describing our subject I. So which to be verb can we put after a subject I to finish this sentence? I'll let you stop the video now and you can do those ones on your own. Okay, when you've finished, you can try number 1 and number 2 here. Which to be verbs are the simple past? Number 2, which to be verb is the past participle? So we know the to be verb has 2 simple past, and they are was for singular subjects and were for plural subjects. and our to be past participle is been. And our last question, number 3 here. Which tense uses the past participle? Is it number 1, present simple, or number 2, simple past, or number 3, present perfect? And it is, of course, the present perfect. So present perfect. The present perfect verb uses have or has plus the past participle. Okay, so present perfect, one meaning is the verb started in the past and is true until now. Sometimes this is because the time hasn't finished. So that's why the verb and our time is important to remember when we use the present perfect. When we use the present perfect have plus the past participle been, this gives us more information about the subject. So remember, the verb to be gives us more information about the subject. Doesn't matter if it's simple tense, past tense, and even present perfect. The verb to be gives us more information about the subject. So we can put an adjective after our verb to describe our subject. So for example, happy. She is our subject, has been happy all day. So here we have our present perfect, our has, plus the past participle been, and this past participle is a to be verb, which means this adjective is describing our subject, she. So remember, the time is also important when we use the present perfect. The time here has not finished. So that's why we can use the present perfect verb to describe our subject, she. So from the start of today until now, she has been happy. So remember, the verb started in the past and is true until now because the time hasn't finished. So all day is our time, and that's why we're using the present perfect. So let's think about a place. For example, Sydney. We want to describe where the subject is. So we're going to use the to be verb, but we're going to use the present perfect. So we need have or has. So our subject is they. They have been to Sydney 3 times this year. All right, so this is our time. The time hasn't finished yet. It's still this year, but this verb has finished, and so far, until now, they have travelled or been to Sydney 3 times. Okay, so we can also think of another ing verb. Remember, when we use the verb to be, we can put another ing verb after it. So, we is our subject, have been waiting at Centrelink for 2 hours. So our present perfect verb is have been waiting. This actually forms what we call the present perfect continuous. All right, so our time is for 2 hours. So this tells us this verb started in the past and is happening until now. We have been waiting. Okay, let's look at some other ways to use the present perfect. So number 2, present perfect. The verb has finished recently and affects now. So we can use the present perfect with a time adverb just. So just will help the verb to mean the verb has just finished recently. So just is our time word. So let's look at this one. She has just arrived in the meeting. This tells us that just a small time ago, she arrived. So this verb is finished, and it finished very recently, and so we use the time adverb just. So this verb affects now. So we could put a conjunction. So she is ready now. She's ready to start the meeting. She has just arrived. So she's ready to start now. Let's look at the next one. My guests have just arrived. So this just is our time, and our present perfect, this is our verb, have arrived. Okay. So this verb is finished, but it finished very recently. So just a little time ago. So that's how we can use the present perfect, and this affects now. My guests have just arrived, so I can't talk to you right now. Let's look at our third way to use the present perfect. The verb has finished, but the time hasn't finished. So let's look at this example. I have already washed the dishes this morning. All right, so our present perfect is have plus our past participle washed. Now, so this verb have washed, it has finished. But look for our time. This is our time. So if I say this in the morning, if I say I have already washed the dishes this morning, we can use this morning if it is still the morning when you say it. So the time hasn't finished. But, for example, if you use it and the time has finished, you have to use it with the simple past. So I washed the dishes this morning. Okay, if I use the simple past, this tells me that the time has finished. So maybe now it's the afternoon. But I'm using the simple past because this morning has finished. It's now 12 o'clock. So the time has finished and my verb has finished. So I'm using the simple past. All right, let's look at the next one. My grandma has done so much today, but I haven't done much yet today. So we can see here our verb is present perfect, has plus the past participle, has done, and our time word is today. So today hasn't finished, it's still going. But so far, my grandma has done, she's finished a lot of things. She's done a lot of jobs. Maybe she's been to the supermarket, she's made lunch, she's cleaned the house, she's read a book. Until now, she has done so much. Let's look at a third one. I have received 2 emails from TAFE so far this week. So our verb, have received, and our time isn't finished this week.